certificate, AWS certificate. What are the processes we need to do, sir?
You will need to register online.
Okay.
So you'll need to select whether you want to take the exam online or offline. So
Okay.
if it is offline, you'll have to go to, so there are a few centers you can
Okay, there
select.
we need to visit.
Correct. So they'll give you a system. You'll need to attend the exam there.
Okay, how it will be, sir? Like difficult or?
See, it depends on your knowledge. If you have good knowledge, you can easily clear it because the questions will be scenario based.
Okay.
So if you are like, good experience, good working knowledge on AWS, you can easily clear the certifications.
Okay. So that what are the topics you have covered? It will come within that or?
Yeah. So that is more than enough.
Okay. Sir. Whenever we want, we can take, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sir.
So when you're registering, you can specify the date and time, and you can take up the certification. So these certifications, if you clear them, it will be valid for 3 years.
3 years. We
After
need
that,
to pay any amounts for that?
yes. So I think it is $150 or something, which will be close to 13 or 15,000.
Sir?
Yeah, so it will be around 12 or 15,000.
Yeah, it's around 12,600.
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
Okay, sir, I'm planning to take in June, July or August. By that time, I will get prepared, and I'm planning to take on June or July.
Okay. Yeah, that should be fine. I mean, as long as you are prepared properly,
So
it should be easy to complete.
I need almost 1 or 2 months to prepare thoroughly, and then we can take the exam.
Yeah. Make sure you prepare because if you don't clear, it's not refundable. You don't get the amount back.
Yes, sir. So only I will prepare thoroughly, and then I will take the exam. Okay,
Fine.
sir, we can start.
Okay. Yeah. Yesterday we started off with we completed Kubernetes dashboard and then we started off with monitoring. So we just did the introduction. I will continue from there itself. So we essentially looked at what is monitoring, why we need monitoring, the different types of monitoring we have, how monitoring works, and then types of monitoring. That is where we had stopped. Yeah, so I have to essentially talk about the different monitoring tools we have. So see, in DevOps, when we talk about your monitoring tools, there are lots of tools that are available in the market. And depending on your choice, you will essentially go with the tools. So we have tools like BMC TrueSight, we have AppDynamics, we have Datadog, Dynatrace, Applications Manager, New Relic, SolarWinds. So likewise, you have lots of tools that are available in the market. So depending on the project, depending on your budget and everything, you'll be deciding which one you want to go with. So in my project, we are currently using New Relic. Earlier we were using Datadog. So like I said, it really depends on your requirement. Okay, so um, this is all your APM tools. So when you say APM tools, as your application performance monitoring tools. Likewise, you also have your IT infrastructure monitoring tool. So we have Grafana, we have Zabbix, NagOS, we have SolarWinds, Icinga, Logic Monitor. We can use these to monitor your infrastructure. That is, your, your server, CPU, memory, all those things can be monitored. In our case, we will be looking at two tools. One will be your Grafana, and then we will also look at your Prometheus. Okay, two things. So here Grafana will be your visualization tool. Okay, which is to basically visualize our data, and this will act as our data source. So we'll talk more on that. So introduction to your Grafana. So Grafana is a multi-platform And this is an open source analytics and interactive visualization web application. So whenever we talk about visualizing your data, Grafana is a very popular tool we have. So this provides us with charts, graphs, and alerts for the web when connected to the supported data sources. And this allows us to query, visualize, alert, and explore the metrics no matter where they are stored. So this is mainly a visualization tool. So in plain English, it provides you with tools to turn your time series database data into beautiful graphs and visualizations. So this is a set of individual panels arranged on a grid with a set of variables like server, application, sensor name, and then so on. So this Grafana tool, it helps us to analyze and monitor the data over a period of time. And this is called as your series analytics, time series analytics. So it supports graphs, single stats, table, heat map, free text panels, as well as integration with plugins and apps that could be visualized too. Each panel, so with this you'll be creating dashboards. So these dashboards we call it as your panel. So each panel can be customized in terms of style and format, and all panels can be dragged, dropped, resized, and rearranged. You can also create users, so you can add roles and permissions to these panels and dashboards found on Grafana, and create organization and team for the organization. So basically you can manage the permissions as well. You can create users, you can set the permissions for them so that others can access your Grafana. So why we should go with Grafana? So this Grafana, this project, it was started in 2013, and since then it has grown. Okay, it has evolved a lot. So below are some of the features of your Grafana. It gives you a dashboard templating, so you can create the dashboards the way you want it. So this is one of the key feature of your Grafana that allows you to create dashboards that can be reused for lots of different use cases. So templating allows you to drill down into your data. Then provisioning. While it is easy to click, drag and drop to create a single dashboard, power users in need of many dashboards will want to automate the setup with a script. So we can either make use of the web application to create the dashboards. We can also make use of scripts to create the dashboards. So you can write script. You can script anything you want in Grafana, creating users, creating dashboards, anything you want, you can write the script for it. For example, if you're spinning up a new Kubernetes cluster, you can also spin up a Grafana automatically with a script that would have the right server, IP address, and data sources preset and logged. It is also a way of getting control over a lot of dashboards. So when you have to do a lot of things, we can do it via scripts. Then annotations. So this feature shows up a graph marker in Grafana, which is useful in correlating data in case something goes wrong. So here, if you see this one, this is, we call it as your annotations. You can create the annotations manually, or you can fetch data from any data source. A good example is if you automatically create annotations around releases, and a few hours after a new release, you start seeing a lot of errors, then you can go back to your annotation and correlate whether the error started at the same time as the release. So this mainly can be used when you want to filter out your data, or you want to see the historical data. Then you have the kiosk mode and playlist. So if you want to display your Grafana dashboards on a TV monitor, you can use the playlist feature to pick up the dashboards that you or your team need to look at through the course of the day and have cycle through on the screen. So if you want to visualize this data on a TV screen, you can do that also. The kiosk mode hides all the user interface elements that you do not need in a view only mode. And then it also has support for your plugins. So plugins allow you to extend Grafana with integrations with other tools, like different visualizations and more. So some of the most popular in the community are World Map Panel, Zabbix, Influx Admin Panel, and then so on. So I'll be showing you how you can do that. You can also set up alerts and hooks. So if you're using Grafana alerting, you can have alerts sent through a number of different notifiers, including PagerDuty, SMS, email, or Slack notifications. So sending out notifications. So alert hooks allow you to create different notifiers with a bit of code if you prefer some other channels of communication. Then permissions and teams. So this is user provisioning. So when organizations have one Grafana and multiple teams, they often want the ability to both keep things separate and share dashboards. So you can create a team of users and then set permissions on folders, dashboards, and down to the data source level. So you can control the permissions as well. Then SQL data sources. So Grafana's native support for SQL helps you to turn anything and not just metrics in an SQL database into metric data that you can graph. So power users are using SQL data sources to do a whole bunch of interesting things like creating business dashboards. Then monitoring your monitoring. So you can also monitor your Grafana itself. So if you're serious about monitoring and you want to monitor your own monitoring, Grafana has its own Prometheus HTTP endpoint that Prometheus can scrap. So it will help us to access the data such as how much CPU your Grafana is using and how long alerting is taking and all those things. So I can use Grafana to monitor other things. I can use Grafana to monitor Grafana itself. And then authentication. So Grafana supports different authentication styles such as LDAP and OAuth and allows you to map users to organizations. So if your company has its own authentication system, Grafana allows you to map the teams in your internal systems to teams in Grafana. So like here, if you see sign in with SAML, so that's your LDAP authentication or OAuth authentication, we can integrate that as well. Any questions until here?
No, sir.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is your installation part. So the installation is pretty straightforward. You can run this on any machines you want, Linux, Mac OS, Windows, everything is fine. This is the system requirements. You need one CPU core, you need 255 MB of RAM. And then some of the features may require more memory. So feature requiring more resource will be like your server side rendering of images, alerting, and data source proxy. For our case, we don't need. Now your Grafana will also need a database. Okay, so Grafana requires a database to store the configuration data such as users, data sources, and dashboards. The exact requirements depend on the size of the Grafana installation and features used. So Grafana supports the following databases. So we can use SQLite, MySQL, and PostgreSQL. By default, Grafana installs with and uses SQLite, which is an embedded database stored in the Grafana installer location. So by default, it uses this, which comes with your Grafana. But if you want to use any other databases, you can do that. Now, Grafana is supported in the current version of your following browsers. So Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Safari, Firefox, and Chrome. So this is where you can access your Grafana. So how do we install this? So we can download a Debian package and we just have to run few commands and that should install. Or you should be able to get the instructions from the internet as well. So let's go back and I guess I already have one instance. Yeah, so let's use that. I log into this. So let's get the instructions. Okay, so here we have the instructions. Pretty straightforward. You just have to run these instructions one after the other. So let me see. Uninstall. Okay. So we'll install few packages here. Just a moment. Okay, so we're done installing those packages. Next, we'll need to import the GPG key. So we'll run this as it is. Then we'll need to add the repo, Grafana repo. Then we'll need to update the machine. And then finally, we will be installing our Grafana. So this you see here, that's your community edition. You also have the enterprise edition, which is basically the charged version. You'll have to pay money. So let's run this. And this should install Grafana for us. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Just a few commands and that should install. Now, you can use this Grafana server to check the status, whether it is installed or not, or you want to start the service, stop the service, all those things can be done. So let's see here. The service Grafana -server status, and you can see this is inactive. So we will start this, and this should start the Grafana service for us. So you can see it is running. Now by default, your Grafana, so all those instructions are given over here. Okay. Now by default, your Grafana runs on port 3000. So we have to make sure that we allow 3000 in our firewall. So let's go to security. We'll go to our security groups, and we'll add a new rule that allows 3000. Now, once you're done with that, we'll take this server IP and we will start accessing this on port 3000. So this should take us to the Grafana login page. So this is the Grafana login page. Now there is a default username and password for this, which is admin. Okay, so I can just say admin as my username, admin as my password. So admin. This will ask you to set a new password. We'll skip it, but if you want, you can set it. And this will log into our Grafana. So this is my Grafana setup. So this is the UI basically of our Grafana. Any questions?
No, sir. In our office, we use Grafana only, sir, to monitor for the SQL.
So you should be pretty comfortable with this.
But they have not given any access. Just they said, please look into this. That's all, sir. They have not given any instructions and what to do, how to do. Till now, 1.5 years, they have not given any single instruction for Grafana, sir.
Yeah, but I mean, this is generally how they will set it up if they want to set it up. This is how your Grafana will look like. Okay. Okay. The next thing we're gonna talk about is your data source. So any idea what is a data source?
Which contains all the files and codes.
Correct. So see, this is just a visualization tool, right? Now we need to give data to this. We need to visualize the data, and that's where we make use of your data source. So data source is simply the source of our data. So whatever the data that we want to display, or whatever the data that we want to visualize, we will need to provide that. We need to give that data. So this can be a file, it can be a particular database on a DBMS, or even a live data feed. But essentially, we'll need to give the data. So the data might be located on the same computer as the program or another computer somewhere on a network. Now there are lots of options that are available. So we can use Prometheus, we can use Graphite, OpenTSDB, InfluxDB, Grafana Loki, CloudWatch, PostgreSQL. So if your database is PostgreSQL, we can get the data from there. In our case, we're looking at Prometheus. So Prometheus is also an open source system monitoring and alerting toolkit originally built at SoundCloud. And since its inception in 2012, many companies and organizations have adopted Prometheus, and the project has a very active developer and user community. So essentially what this Prometheus does is it collects and stores the metrics as a time series data. That is, metrics information is stored with the timestamp at which it was recorded alongside optional key value pairs called labels. So what are the features? It's a multi-dimensional data model with time series data identified by metric name and key value pairs. It also gives us a PromQL, which is a flexible query language to leverage this dimensionality. No reliance on distributed storage. Single server nodes are autonomous. Time series collection happens via a pull method over HTTP. Pushing time series is supported via an intermediary gateway, and targets are discovered via service discovery or statics configuration. Multiple modes of graphing and dashboarding support. So this is just our data source, which will help us to get the data from your source and push it to our Grafana. So here, if you see, this is our Grafana, right? So essentially what happens is this Prometheus server, this will connect to our source, whatever the data that we want to fetch. So we will have something known as exporters. So Prometheus will collect that data and it will push that data to the Grafana. In addition to this, we can also have your alerting mechanism like pager duty, email notification, or SMS notifications. All those things are also possible. Okay, so essentially it will retrieve the data, store it in the database, and then push it to your Grafana if you have configured it. So to begin with this, we will also need to install our Prometheus. So here you should be able to see the instructions to install Prometheus. So let me go there. Looking for Prometheus. Let's say this is for Linux, and this would be for I'm just trying to let me oh, just a minute, Bharat. Okay, sorry. So let's see, installation. This is all Docker. Okay, let me download the package itself. AMD Prometheus. We have 3 versions. So let me download this. So let's go here, we'll copy this link, we'll do a wget, and that should download the file. We'll unzip this, exdev. Okay, and we have it here. We go to that folder. Okay, so it's simply a script, so we just have to run that script. So let me run this. Okay, so server is ready to serve request. Let me start this in the background so that it does not lock my terminal. Okay, not taking it. Okay, it's okay. So I have my Prometheus running. So here you can see this message here. Server is ready to receive web request. So that is essentially my Prometheus is also up and running. Okay. So I'll open up a new tab so that we can kind of see the processes. So we have Grafana running and we have our Prometheus running. Ideally, we should be running them on 2 different machines, but just to save some time, I'm running both Grafana and Prometheus on the same server on this machine itself. Now, how do you access your Prometheus? Okay, so let me try getting the instructions. Hold on. Prometheus, I think it is 8080. Let me try. Don't give me any instructions here. Let's see, so Docker images. Let me see this. So do they have any? What's the port? Okay, 9100 is, I think that is what it is. Okay, 9090. So let's go back to my security group. We'll add a new rule. This will be 9090. And now we'll take the server IP and we'll try accessing this on port 9090. So this is my Prometheus. Okay, so status, and here if you look at these targets, as of now this is the local machine, so it is monitoring my local machine. And here, okay, what is that? I may have to configure this. Hold on. So this is your Prometheus dashboard. Okay, this is where you should be able to see all your metrics. So under this targets, you should be able to see the metrics. But now it is not showing us because I need to configure. So if you see currently it is pointing to localhost. Okay, so it won't show me anything because it is pointing to that. So I'll need to update it slightly. So if you look at this node, so if I go to that folder, you can see this YAML file. This is your Prometheus configuration file. Okay, so that's their configuration file. Now, if you scroll down, we should be able to see this scrape configs. This is where you will be defining what do you want to monitor. So you can see this target. So this is essentially what it is showing here. So I'm going to change that to my IP address, the public IP address, so that it will capture that information. So let me change this to my server IP, which would be this one. I'll save this and I will need to restart my Prometheus. So let me cancel this and start it once again. And now if I refresh my Prometheus, you can see this is updated. And you can see this is all the metrics. By default, my Prometheus captures. Now I can take all this. So this becomes my data source. So here, if you see, I should be able to see my CPU. So this is all my CPU. I should be able to see my memory. Okay, so this is all my memory related. I can look for writes. So you can see here the writes information. I should be able to see reads. It does not have reads. Network. It does not have network. So basically, these are some of the default metrics that are being captured. So this becomes my data source. Any questions until here?
What if Prometheus itself is down, and then how do we get to know?
You can define, you can set up alertings for that as well. So here, if you see, you have the alerts mechanism that you can set up. You can monitor your Prometheus also. So what you can do is you can continuously monitor this endpoint, whether this endpoint is available or not. So if you whether you're getting a 200 response code or not. If you're not getting a 200 response code, it's unhealthy.
Got it, Ravi.
So we have our visualization ready. We have our data source ready. Now we need to get this data source into my Grafana. So how do we do that? We can go to dashboards. Okay, and we start creating our dashboards. So you can add your visualization. So what is your data source? So we need to configure a new data source. And like I said, our data source. So these are the options we have. We can also, there are lots of these are all your plugins. Okay, so you can choose whatever you want. In our case, we are looking at Prometheus, and you start filling in the details. Okay, so what is the URL? Where is your Prometheus running? So in our case, this is the IP address. So we will take this and we will give it to our Grafana. Okay, so that's where my Prometheus is running. Authentication, if you have any authentication, you can give that. So you'll basically fill in all these details. So you can save and test, and this will tell you whether the Grafana is able to connect to Prometheus or not. So you can say this is done. Now using this, I can build a dashboard. So add visualization. So Prometheus is our data source, and here you can add your queries. So what metric do you want to monitor? So let's wait for that. Okay, that's taking some time, but so Prometheus is what we're using. Let's see. So as I was telling, so that's taking some time, but as I was telling you, these are all your plugins. So exporters is what I was talking about. So an exporter is a piece of software that can fetch statistics from another non-Prometheus system. An exporter can turn those statistics into Prometheus metrics using a client library. So exporters are your plugins, additional plugins. Like let's say, for example, you want to monitor your Apache server, you'll have an exporter for that. You want to monitor your SQL database, you have an exporter for that, which is nothing but your plugins. Okay, so all these are again available over, hold on, where was that? So here under downloads, so here you can see all these are exporters. So Graphite, Memcached, MySQL, Node, StatsD, Alert Manager. So all these are your exporters that you'll need to essentially install. Okay, so we have a Node porter, Node exporter. So Node exporter is a Prometheus exporter for server level and OS level metrics with configurable metrics collectors. So this helps in measuring various service resources such as RAM, disk space, and CPU utilization. So, you will need to essentially install that to get the data. So we have Apache exporter, which is mainly used to monitor your Apache server. Likewise, you have different exporters based on your use case. Once you have that, you will essentially need to define your data source. Let me refresh this. I don't know why it's taking some time, but let's add this Prometheus. If for some reason it's taking time. Prometheus is my data source. Create dashboard, add visualization. Prometheus is what we have. Prometheus is running, right? So let me check my targets. Yes, so this is running. So it's taking time. But okay, but essentially what will happen is all these metrics that we see here, it will show over here as well. And we can choose and we can add a dashboard here, which is nothing but a panel. Likewise, you can have a panel for CPU utilization. You can have it for network in, network out, disk reads, disk writes. All those things can be monitored using this Prometheus metrics. Like I said, if you want to monitor a specific thing, there are plugins available for that also, and you can start getting the data using those plugins. And here you should be able to choose them and start. Your data source essentially, and you can start visualizing the data here. Does it give you some idea?
Yes, Ravi.
So I was telling that earlier that in our case, at least in my project, we're using New Relic as our monitoring tool. So it really depends on the project, depends on your use case, depends on your budget and everything, which monitoring tool you want to use. But essentially all the tools do the same thing. So we have your application performance monitoring tools, we have your infrastructure monitoring tools for different use cases, right? So earlier we were using Datadog, and currently we are using New Relic for monitoring purpose. So this brings us to the end of your DevOps. This is pretty much all I have. If there's any questions, you can let me know. If not, then the last thing I have is your project. So we'll also be doing a project. We'll try to leverage all the DevOps tools we have learned, and we'll try doing this project on the AWS platform, creating the infrastructure and everything so that you get an idea how a project really works. So we'll be looking at all those things. But yeah, pretty much that's all I have. For the project, I'll be letting you know when I will do it. I need to prepare for it a bit. So I'll be letting you know in advance. But yeah, I guess that's all I have from my end.
Thanks, Ravi. One question. What is that ELK stack that is very common I see on the job portals and all?
Yeah, so ELK, it stands for Elastic, Logstash, and Kibana. So E is Elastic, L is Logstash, K is Kibana. That's also a monitoring tool. So Kibana is equivalent of Sure. So your Kibana is equivalent of Grafana. So Kibana is your visualization tool. Logstash is an equivalent of your Prometheus, which is your data source, and Elastic is your search engine.
Okay.
So if you're interested, I have a GitHub repo for that as well. You can explore. I can share that. ELK. Okay, so here. So setting up your ELK. So here you have all the instructions. So you can see we are installing our Elasticsearch, installing Logstash, we're installing Kibana. So like I said, Kibana is your visualization tool. Logstash helps you to fetch the data, like your data source. And Elasticsearch is for, it's like your query engine, searching the data, and all those things can be done. Uh,
Is it mandatory that I have to use Kibana here instead of instead of Kibana, can I use Grafana here as a visualization tool? EL and Grafana, Elasticsearch, and
So you will need to see if your Grafana supports Logstash or not. Let's see. Okay, where's my data source? Data source. Yeah. 2 minutes. So data source. So add a new data source, and let's see, Logstash. It's not there, so it won't work. So I don't know if it has Elastic. Okay, it has Elastic. So you have Elasticsearch, which you can integrate, but it does not have support for Logstash.
okay, Logstash is the data source, like Prometheus.
Yeah, so it has documentation of what it does. So provision, I guess you can use Elasticsearch as well. Provisioning. I never tried it, but I guess it should work. Yeah, you can use Elasticsearch also as your data source. It's possible. It's possible. It has support. So you can
You
use
said you're using a new Relic, whatever. I mean,
New Relic.
New Relic. So what? I mean, is it a data source or is it a visualization tool?
New Relic is everything. Data
Oh.
source, visualization, application performance monitoring, infrastructure monitoring. It does everything for us. So it's, I guess we don't have a community version of New Relic, I think. Let me check. New Relic. Community. Let me check install. Sign up. Okay, ingest. Check out dashboards, add users. I don't know if it has a free version. I'll have to check on this. But I mean, like I said, it does your application performance monitoring, browser monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, log monitoring, mobile monitoring. So everything that you want a monitoring tool to do, New Relic does it for you.
Got it, Abhi.
Any other questions or any queries, guys?
No, sir.
But finally, just to the end, I would say you don't have to necessarily spend much time on the monitoring side. I would say, definitely spend more time on Git and GitHub, Ansible, Jenkins, containerizations, Terraform. Concentrate more on these. Your interview questions will be mostly around these tools. Please, what? I'll prepare the project and I'll let you know, and we can go over that, and post that we can talk about your interview things. If you're interested, how we can plan for it and how we can take it forward. We can discuss about that as well. But for now, that's all I have. Like I said, we won't be having session tomorrow, or I would say tomorrow and day after tomorrow we won't have it. Friday we have our cricket league. Prukshit, you're not playing?
No, Ravi.
Yeah. So we have the cricket league, so I'll be a little occupied over there, and I'll be late by the time I reach home. So most probably early next week, I'll plan something and we'll finish off your project as well. Sounds good?
Yes, Ravi.
Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ravi.